All right, today we're going to unpack an idea from our source material that might completely flip how you think about debt. Because in this view, it's not really about money, it's about power. So let's just start right there. Think about it. When you get a loan, is it just a financial transaction? Or are you trading away something, well, something way more valuable than future interest payments? Our source material has a pretty fascinating and frankly, a little unsettling take on this. Okay, so to really get our heads around this core argument, we have to start by, well, redefining debt itself. So let's jump right into section 1, more than just money. So on the one hand, you've got the view we all know, right? Debt is just a tool, it's a number on a spreadsheet. Money borrowed, money owed. Simple. But the source material we're looking at paints a totally different picture. It reframes debt not as money you will owe in the future, but as power and influence you have already handed over. And this one quote really is the cornerstone of the whole idea. See how that shifts things? The focus isn't on some future payment. It's about a power dynamic that changes the instant that debt is created. Okay, so if we run with this idea for a minute, if debt really does equal influence, what does that actually look like in the real world? What are the consequences? Well, that's what brings us to section 2, where we're going to unpack what our source calls the power of debt. The source breaks down how this transfer of power happens in 3 pretty clear steps. First, an individual, or hey, even an entire country, takes on debt. Simple enough. Then, because of that obligation, the lender suddenly has a say. They gain influence over the debtor's choices, whether that's obvious or super subtle. And then, here's the kicker, the final outcome. The debtor loses a piece of their sovereignty. For you and me, that's the freedom to make our own life choices. For a nation, well, that's the ability to govern itself without someone else pulling the strings. And you can imagine when this happens over and over and over again, the result, according to our source, is this quiet but massive shift of power. It just steadily flows from the many who borrow to the very few who lend. All right, now this is where the source material takes this whole idea of debt as power and connects it to something much bigger. And let's be honest, a lot more controversial. So in section 3, we're going to just neutrally lay out its claims about what it calls the Great Reset thesis. Here's the core of the argument right here. It suggests that debt isn't just happening by accident, but that it can be used as a deliberate tool to kind of engineer a society with less personal ownership and way more centralized control. According to the source, this isn't just one thing, it's a whole strategy. The claim is that the goal is to use the leverage of lending to concentrate power in fewer hands. At the same time, this discourages the whole idea of owning things yourself, which in turn pushes people to become more and more dependent on these big, centralized systems for everything they need. And what's the engine driving this whole thing? Debt. So, after painting this pretty intense picture of a potential future, the source doesn't just leave us there. It actually offers a direct response, a way for individuals to push back. And that brings us to our final section, reclaiming your sovereignty. You know, the path forward that's proposed here isn't some super complex 10-step plan. Nope. Instead, the source argues that it all comes down to one really fundamental and powerful action. And here it is. The number 1 recommendation is just that simple. Avoid and eliminate debt. I mean, if debt is the tool used to transfer power away from you, then it stands to reason that avoiding debt is how you keep that power. So what does this actually mean for you personally? Well, according to this perspective, being debt-free is so much more than just a financial goal. It's the foundation of your personal freedom. It's what allows you to make choices based on your values, not based on who you owe. It's about taking back your autonomy, your own personal ownership. And so this entire analysis we've walked through, it really leaves us with one powerful question to think about in our own lives. If debt is influence, who holds yours?